Thanks so much, appreciate it. He leaves. 20 minutes later, he calls. It's evident that he's left his keys at the place. Will you just ship those to me? I'll give you my UPS number. And the first thing that she says is, well, wait a minute. Have you taken off yet? He says, no. Don't move. Have you gone through security? No. Turn around, come back out on the curb, tell me what airline you're flying. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Grabs the keys, runs out, doesn't say anything to anybody, doesn't ask, just says, somebody cover for me. I've got to run some keys to the airport. That is a hero moment. Welcome to the Whole Pro Podcast, brought to you by Tennessee Section PGA. I'm Jim Vernon, former president of the Tennessee Section. And along with me is my good friend Virgil Herring, two-time Tennessee Teacher of the Year. Before we jump in today, I want to introduce us to our first prop. If you're listening to us and you can't see us, it's a hotel desk bell, I guess you'd call it, any bell that you might have in a retail establishment or something like this, and so folks at home can hear it. And I know you're going to be shocked, Verge, but I have a story.
You have a story about this?
Yeah, I know it's surprising, isn't it? Back when I'm working at Hermitage, we had a loyalty program where we gave a free round after a certain number of rounds that you played. Well, I wanted to call attention to that really in the moment when the person was there. So the idea was when Miss Johnson walked up and she paid us and we saw that it was time for a free round, we would say, hey, congratulations, Miss Johnson, it's your free round. And so it was good for them, but it was also for the other people in the shop. Shop's always full of people, right? That they would look around, what's the bell for, what's going on, we get a chance to talk about it and so forth. Well, I would say that the intended purpose of the bell lasted maybe 3 weeks, something like that, and it became much more of a source of entertainment for us amongst the staff. Whenever we might say something snarky to each other, funny. We wanted to include the customers as well, appropriately. I mean, one time that always pops in my head is there's a guy that walked in one time and said he needed to get some rental clubs. And we were like, well, sure, great, yes, sir. Would you like right-handed or left-handed? And he said, it doesn't matter. There's this kind of short, awkward silence, and somebody just rang the door and went, it kind of slightly rang the bell, and everybody died laughing. Either this guy is the second coming of Matt Grady, if you're old, for us that are old enough to remember that guy, he can hit it from both sides, or he's so terrible that he doesn't even know which side of the ball that he hits it from. Unfortunately, it was the latter of the two, but that's a whole nother story. But most of the time, it was just used in fun. We wanted to have fun with our customers. Now, there were some rare times that I would say that the bell kind of deteriorated in its purpose into what we called the bell of hate, which was for those rare times that, let's just face it, if you worked in golf or anything with the public all the time, there are just some people that are miserable and they want to make everyone else miserable around them. Mm-hmm. Now, we never did this in front of them, but as soon as they left, there would always be a, thanks for coming out, sir, or something like that as we left. So I'm introducing Mr. Belvedere or Kristen Bell or whatever. Hey, maybe that's one of our next things is everybody, we need you to give a nickname to the bell. Okay, it can't just be the bell, and bell of hate is already taken, so we're not going to use that. So welcome to the show, Mr. Belvedere, or whatever we're going to call him. All right. Well, but why don't we talk about something real now? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're going to talk about
Well, this
today?
kind of goes in line with the bell, right? It's customer service. And I remember these days because I was at Hermitage when we came up with that program where you paid for 4 rounds and you got your 5th round free.
Yeah.
What was it called?
We just called it the frequent.
That's right.
F-R-E-E.
The frequent player package, right?
Yeah.
So this evolved after I left, right? But this is fantastic. But one of the things that I think that we did well at Hermitage, and one of the things that I know that you do well, and you speak about it now, is customer service. We really did a great job of enhancing the experience between the customer and the employees. It was a good feel vibe every time we were there. That's one of the things I hold dear to my heart when we talk about Hermitage. Yeah. The crew was awesome, and we had a really good rapport with everybody that came through the door. Yep. I don't see that much anymore. That has turned more into take the money, here's your key, don't forget your scorecard, and keep up your pace of play. And it's turned way less personal, way less engaging, and I think it's okay. We've talked about this. This is now episode 5, and you're starting to see these trends. There's a fatigue that is going on in how people do their work in every endeavor, but certainly for us in the PGA.
Yeah.
And we're trying to create a new spark, a new way. And you are one of the finest in this country at discussing customer service and how to make it stand out and do better with it. And I think that that's really important because we got to figure out a way to, if you're having fun at work and the people that are coming who are already trying to have fun,
Yeah.
start having fun before they even start playing golf, you've now created something that is a human connection piece that allows people to feel like even if I don't play good today, I got this good vibe at this place. Right. They're always looking to like take care of whatever I need within good reason, right? I think that that's missing, and I think that's why you're thriving in this second part of your career, because you're talking about things that are slipping away that make a huge difference in the workforce.
I totally agree with that. I think that when I talk about service, it's not, in the talks that I do, it's not even necessarily golf specific. I make the argument, and I don't even think it's an argument, that the path to great service is through a person's heart. And that's where we get connections made, where then we have a chance to make a relationship with somebody. And when you can make a relationship with somebody, even in a short amount of time, that's when you turn them into what I call cheerleaders, where they want to go tell everybody about you, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? And I always said that I think that the path is through somebody's heart. The word that you use there that I like the best is vibe. And I agree with you 100%. It's one of the things that I loved about being at Hermitage. It's still the case there. There's a vibe when you walk into that place, okay? Each person, and I talk about this to people in my presentations, and each person has a vibe that they create around themselves. But that also lends itself to the overall vibe of the facility. It's an energy that you have, the facility has, or lack of energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you need to know what that vibe is. And if you don't know, ask somebody. Ask a customer or a client or a guest or something, that will be truthful with you what your vibe is really like.
Yeah.
Okay, and when we work on that vibe, I think that influences that overall vibe of the facility, and I call it just having fun. Not the bell, all right? Not inappropriate fun, but fun. We can be professional and still have fun at what we do. I mean, I use Chick-fil-A a lot in some of the talks that I talk about. Think about these folks. They crush their competition. Only open 6 days a week, and they still crush their competition. They have a good product. Okay, there's lots of good product out there. Mm-hmm. But they also couple it with this really complex idea of customer service, and that they're really, really nice. They create this vibe of where they smile, energy, sense of urgency, all of those things. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of Chick-fil-A's I've been in, but I've never had a bad customer service experience once. I'm sure it's happened. But to not have it one time, it says a lot about the people that they hire. Says a lot about how they train people, how they hold them accountable, and really just the expectation that they set. And that's what I would encourage, facilities to do, is that you set the expectation on this is how we are going to treat our customers. We're going to try to make connections. We're going to try to make relationships, and that turns them into those cheerleaders.
Yeah, and I think that leads to something that I believe in when it comes to my coaching, right? There's a standard you start with. What is it that we do here? Okay.
Right.
So when I'm coaching golf, there's an expectation value that a person has when they're coming to see me. So the first thing I'm doing when they're walking in, after I introduce myself and give me the State of the Union address, so to speak, where are we at? The most important thing I say is the first question. What is the most important thing that I could do today that if you came in here, what's the most important thing that I could do to make your day awesome? I'm not hitting my driver well. Probably one of the most common. I said, well, I need you to get loose. Then we're going to hit a 7-iron because I've yet to see somebody who's making a different swing with their 7-iron than their driver. And if the 7-iron looks good, we're going right to the driver. But if it's not, it's going to be a whole lot more gratifying for you to fix your golf swing with a 7-iron in your hand than it is the driver. I guarantee you we're going to get this done. Yeah. So now they're like, okay. So they hit, the video and TrackMan kind of spell it out for us. And in 5 minutes, they have their answer. Then the rest of their time is what do I have to do to make that dream come true, so to speak, and the work that goes into it. But I set it up for them. They just come in and completely tell me, what is the single most important thing that you do here, or that you want me to do here for you? And then I got it set. So the same thing. Now, a golf lesson or golf schools or something is a slightly different model than rounds of golf, but it's still in the same realm. When we were at Hermitage, there was a standard of what you expected, both from the golf course, the people that were there, the quality of all things, food, drink, the turf conditions, everything, right? So that's a given. So we already knew when we were there that if we weren't the number one public course, which I believe we were certainly in the top two.
Yep.
So that's an expectation that we have to match every single time somebody walks up to that counter, because they're like, I'm at the most prestigious public facility in the state of Tennessee. And I want to feel like every single person behind that counter represents that. And that's what we did a really good job of. We had a great team of guys that stood behind the standard. The real question is that's where the problem with customer service is falling apart, is the standard has fallen. Or there's no standard at all.
Right.
Because maybe this golf course or this company or whatever are in survival mode, and they don't even realize that they're surviving something that they could actually have a standard for and begin to change things quickly. So finding a standard for yourself or the company that you're working for is essential, not just for you personally, but for the facility that you're at.
Agreed. When you talk about the expectation and that standard, I just reread the book Raving Fans by a guy named Ken Blanchard. And it's probably the best customer service book out there. Great for me because you can read it in an hour and a half and it's got big print. But the dude is just so good at what I call cheerleaders, he calls raving fans. And one of the things that he says is that, particularly as you just look on the internet and it'll tell you people think that service has been declining over the years and continues to do so. Well, that the expectation that people have is so low that's why that low level is actually kind of crappy. So that's what we expect. So anybody doing just a little bit more is like, well, that's just what you get right now. You know, my standard joke is, man, if the level is down here, then when we get it here, we're all going to look like Adele at karaoke night. I mean, you know, you're going to stand out so much more. So instead of saying, well, that's just the way it is, and I know lots of people that think that way, because you can tell when you go into any service business, this is all I really got to do down here, okay? And then the ones what an opportunity to shine. You and I have talked about this in all phases. I don't know that there's ever been a time where it's a better opportunity, particularly young people getting into this business or whatever business, to really stand out and show themselves. I want to tell. Do you
have a story?
Yeah, I do have a story.
Okay.
Shockingly, when we were working, and all of these, when I talk about these in my presentations, I have what we call hero moments, and they're really opportunities to take what I call your service from acceptable to exceptional. And they're usually little windows of chance to do something that, man, I mean, it hits people in the feels in such a way that they just never, ever forget it. And one of my favorite ones, I have a lot, and I'm fortunate to say that all of these, you know, happened at my time at Hermitage. I was either part of them or saw them, and I'll try to make it as short as I can. But we had a guy come in and wave at us and say, hey, thanks so much, had a great time. I'm headed back to Detroit. I get down here every 4 or 6 weeks. I'll see you all later. Thanks so much, appreciate it. He leaves. 20 minutes later, he calls. It's evident that he's left his keys at the place. Young lady behind the counter for us says, got them right here. Looks like they were turned in right here. And he goes, oh, great. Will you just ship those to me? I'll give you my UPS number, and I'll figure out what to do when I get home. But there are a couple of keys I need on that kind of sooner than later. So let me give you this number. And the first thing that she says is, well, wait a minute. Have you taken off yet? He says, no. Well, how long till your plane leaves? He said, well, actually, I got here early. I got some work to do. I was just going to go to the lounge. Don't move. Have you gone through security? No. Turn around, come back out on the curb, tell me what airline you're flying. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Grabs the keys, runs out, doesn't say anything to anybody, doesn't ask, just says, somebody cover for me. I've got to run some keys to the airport. That is a hero moment. I mean, that guy called me, emailed me, sent us a letter, said he had never had that kind of experience of service for something as easy as car keys or something as mundane as car keys. I mean, she could have said, well, yes, sir, I'll get those right out to you. I will call you with that tracking number tomorrow, and I'm really sorry that happened to you. That'd have been good, right? She could have said, well, don't worry about that UPS number. We ship UPS every single day. I'll get them to you. We'll eat that part. And it sounded to me like you needed those, there were some keys you needed kind of quickly. What if I overnight them to you? We'll get them to make sure you get them no later than tomorrow. That'd been better, right? No. She saw her window open there, and it was, let's be honest, it was going to be a pain in the ass to do. She's leaving somebody hanging at the counter. I covered for her, was so glad to cover for her because she didn't even, I didn't ask her to do that. And we have so many other stories like that where these people weren't asked to do that. They saw this as, man, here's my moment. And I think of so many that I missed over the years that I could have done or times. But now when I talk to people about that, identifying those opportunities for those moments to make people, like I say, feel good in a way that they will never forget it.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to go see one of my idols, General Colin Powell, speak. And he to me, because my sister was a Marine and she fought during Afghanistan and Iraq, I have a huge following for Colin Powell. And he said, which I didn't know was a John Maxwell statement. He was just using it because that's how it influenced him and how he conducted his business in the military. He said, if you want to be a leader, you got to learn to touch their heart before you ask for their hand. And I was like, that's like, of all the great people that I saw speak that day, when he said that, I was like, that's really the essence of me being a conduit between where people are and where they want to be. I'm gonna try to touch your heart before I ask for your hand. And what an awesome way to view leadership. And you don't have to be the leader to demonstrate leadership at the end of the day. And that's what I'd be trying to encourage the younger group that are either getting in the PGA or just kind of evolving professionally, is that even though you're not the manager, you're not the owner, you're not the CEO, you're the owner of this moment.
Yeah.
And every moment you get to demonstrate leadership is just another feather in your cap, and you just keep on stacking stones until you're on top. And I'll never forget that moment. And as God rest his soul, one of the greatest leaders we've ever had. I wish he'd have been a president for us.
100%.
But I mean, that right there is, I talk about that all the time. Touch their heart before you ask for their hand.
Obviously that's literally the title of my talk, has the word heart in it, because like I say, I think that's the best path to it. And when you talk about serving others and being a servant, we're talking about professionally, but I think it's just as important personally. I'll look around the room and I'll say, who here, thinks that part of their job is to be a servant? Raise your hand. Maybe half of the folks will raise their hands. And I get that. And I think the reason, me personally, I think that every single role I've ever had, no matter what it is, part of is being a servant. And I think that the reason that 100% people don't raise their hand is because they look at the word servant like it's some kind of lowly kind of thing that, who would strive to be, couldn't disagree more. I believe, just like you said, the best people, businesses, companies, leaders, executives, whatever that I know in the world, all have that kind of servant's heart that gets talked about so much.
Yeah, they don't look at it from the spiritual, religious side of servants.
Not necessarily, no.
And that's a big error worldwide.
Agreed.
And I think that it's so strange how like one word can veer off so far when it's really, if you are in a service opportunity, if you're the person working for the service, you're a servant.
Right.
And every single person there is a servant.
Right.
And so how could that be a negative? But yet, I would even say the first time I heard it, when you said the word servant, the first thing I heard was, I bet somebody doesn't like that.
Exactly.
And I'm like...
They're almost afraid to raise their hand. I don't know. Do I want to be a servant?
Yeah. Because it almost has like, I don't want to say, it's almost like slave. It has like this, you don't have a choice.
Right.
You're, whoosh,
yeah.
Take care of this person.
Right.
So, and I think that that's such a terrible way to view it, but that's almost what I think people hear.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. And I think once we get out and I ask people to look at that word a little bit differently when they think about serving others. You kind of answered my question earlier, but when you think about, I can talk about customer service when it deals with the public and people coming in all the time for forever, but think about people that have not chosen the route that I chose, that are more in your lane, where they're teachers, or they, a lot of, how do you think, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, how do you think about what are ways that I can serve this person, maybe even more than just, hitting a high draw?
Well, because I coach mostly competitive golfers, right? And that probably would then be like 80% 13 to 18-year-olds, right? I'm going to be talking about the adversity that the game brings and how similar life and golf are when it comes to adversity. And a 14-year-old boy or girl is going to be like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, it's a little early yet, but you're going to find out one of the more painful things in life is work really, really hard on a process. Refine your skills to the best of your ability so that you've earned the right to play in an event that you've always wanted to play and win. And then be as prepared as you've ever been and go out and lay an egg. It is so devastating to put all of your chips into the middle of the table and then fail.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about what golf is a game that allows us to experience life's nuances, positively and negatively, and gives us a game ground, safe, where we can fail and learn, but not be judged, so to speak. And then as we get older, we're 30 years old, and we're married, and we literally tried our very best to deliver a message to our kids about something. Mm-hmm. And it totally blows up in our face. And you're just like, how did my very best effort land me here?
Yeah.
And then that extrapolates even further outward. The company that you work for, you're all the things that we did when I was at a private club. We had we were bringing in $1 million between golf lessons and club sales. And then the general manager comes in, everybody's fired but one. Yeah. And then they've not cracked 800 since then, and we were at 1.1 million. And for what? It made no sense. Well, that hurt 4 people like that.
Yeah.
And for what? Nothing. But you have to that is, you just hit 8,000 4-foot putts this week because you've been working on, knowing it's going to come down to that to win. And you have your chance to make the putt to win. You go through the routine, you line it up, you hit it just the way you want. Mm-hmm. Doesn't go in. Devastation. It's the same feeling, except golf provides us a game. And I think one of the most important things that I like to pass on, we stop playing games. Most people stop playing games at age 18. If you are lucky enough to be good at something, you might get to 22. And only if you're in the top half percentile do you get to keep playing games until you're 40, 45, or 50. But that's where we learn most of our lessons the funnest way. And that's why I'm always trying to encourage people. Golf's the greatest game for that, because you constantly keep getting the opportunity to face adversity while chasing a fun endeavor. And sometimes life's not as fun, but that's what's been taken off from my corporate coaching stuff. Right. Is that I use the golf course.
Talking about life as well, man, the whole time.
And I'm using my golf knowledge to help them, and then it's easy to translate something that's going on in their business. There's something that's very tangible in the process to become a great golfer. And I can say, well, it seems here just as much as you hate working on your hybrids and your 3-wood and your fairway woods, because that's a really important club for you. You hate it because you're not good at it. It also sounds like you're having the same exact problem in your company because there's an uncomfortable topic that you don't want to, face.
Right.
But it's a cancer in the community now. So you have to address this elephant in the room, and you're going to find out 2 minutes later that you can't believe you waited this long to tackle it. It's just a fear that's manifesting in your head that you just got to take action toward until all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I made that way bigger than it really was. Almost every single thing that we do, the fear of being truthful about something that might hurt somebody else. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then something happens that you don't have a choice now. So the cat's out of the bag, and now you got to fess up.
Yeah.
And then you have that hard conversation, and 2 minutes later, you're like, so wait a second, I went through all that pain for that. And those are the moments that I think people can glean from life and golf, is that we learn all of these things in a game. It trains us for life, but it's way funner to learn life through a game than it is through the hard knocks of life.
I so agree. And we've talked about this so much, about the parallels of the things that we talk about in the golf business that can be applied to any business or in life. I was reminded of, and this applies just as much if you decide, how do I mean, the whole reason I do what I do now is because I wanted to impact people in a positive way, whatever that looks like, okay? And one of those ways is to serve other people, whether that's through business or through, my personal life or whatever else. And I always talk about 2 words that I think everybody should think about if they want to be a good servant and serve others well. And those words are care and need. The first one is that we have to genuinely care about something, okay? And in particular, if you're doing it, whether it's personal or business, up there on my screen, I'm underlining genuine, because if you try to fake genuine, man, that'll make people's skin crawl, right? Yeah. So it's got to be genuine. And then that second one is need, that we need to identify the needs that people have. Whether it's the person coming in that doesn't say anything to you in the shop, and some people vomit out everything and tell you everything you ever wanted to know, but most people don't. So what are we missing if we don't engage there and identify what that need is? What are we missing when you walked past that person on the street and you had that feeling in your gut that said, I'm supposed to go talk to this person or do something here or say something here? And if you do that, which I don't do it near enough, but when I do, I always glean something from them, or am able to discern some need that they need, and then is this something that I can do to take care of them? And so if whether it's personal or professional, I think we identify a need, and then we genuinely care enough to do something about it. And I love the way you do it as a teacher, because you're talking about those kids about life skills just as much as you are golf.
And the cool thing for me is that I have a gigantic amount of thank you notes, which are my real awards, about lessons that I taught at 16 or 17. Now they're 34 and they're a dad or a mom. And I'll get a thank you note like 17 years later. I never thought that. You used to tell me all the time that this is more than just golf. Now I get it. Yep. And that's what really matters to me. That's what really matters.
And you don't even know when you're affecting people sometimes, right?
That's right.
Until after, and you get that note. Like I got something from a guy the other day that was from 10 years ago, and it was 4 paragraphs of how I had affected him in a way that I had no idea. I was just trying to be Jim and be a good dude and do my job well, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think if we're mindful of how we serve, and when that stuff runs through people's heart, I say, yeah, we have to connect with their heart, but you know what? We have to engage our heart too for that thing to come together, right?
Mutual vulnerability.
Yep.
Well, it just wouldn't be a good whole pro podcast if we don't have our movie quote, Jim. What are you offering us today?
Today is one of my favorite movies. I'm not going to give you other hints. I feel like, again, my standard for what is easy is not everybody's standard for what is easy. But the quote today is, name the movie this quote is from. You guys are dumber than a bag of hammers. Thank you all for being with us today at The Whole Pro, again, presented by the Tennessee PGA. Please reach out to us. Give us feedback. We'd love to hear from the questions and answer to that movie quote as well. You can email us at thewholepro@gmail.com. We'll see you again next time.